Hey everybody! It's time for the open qualifiers. I am here with Sealy for the first of the two finals. We're going to be watching Wlastelin versus lord-triss for our first match here, the winners bracket finals. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here once again. I'm really excited about today's games. We have two tickets left to open number 3, and today we'll get to find out which two players will claim those tickets and go forward and get to show their skills in open number 3.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, well, I guess let's just hop right into the deck lists here. First up, we've got Vlastelin's lists. He has brought Lined Pockets, Reckless Flurry, Force of Nature, and Inspired Zeal. Starting us off here with the Lined Pockets, we got Witchfinder as well to go alongside some of the removal cards that Syndicate has access to. We got Horson Jr., Tunnel Drill, Horson's Freak Show, and sort of Bloody Good Friends as all options to help cash out those bounties. Playing the newly buffed Smuggle, which has gone to 4P, giving the deck... Well, normally this is easy ways to pull your Flying Redinian round 1, but this deck's not playing Flying Redinian. You have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a really interesting cut for Lined Pockets to be making. I don't think I've seen that before in a tournament. And I've heard that Wlastelin has done it before, and clearly he is relying on this strategy and thinks it works for him as he's done it again. And because of this boat cut, of course, we can run the cards like Tavern Brawl here, which is also pretty interesting in an open deck list, as well as the Sewer Raiders, I believe, getting that extra thinning in. So definitely an interesting cut, Trenet.
Yeah.
All right. We can move on to the Reckless Flurry list, maybe?
Yeah. You want to start us off?
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So we have a new card, Sunset Wanderers. Of course, really, really strong card, and especially works in something like Skellige, because here we see Wlastelin opting to go for the discard package. Now, the discard package in combination with a card like Sunset Wanderers can make your Sunset Wanderers really get a few extra points in there, as long as you draw those cards at the right time and in the right order as well. So Coral, Burna, Morkvarg, along with your Skirms. You also have Double Skull here. You might be discarding some of your other 4 provision cards here. We see Double Brokvar Hunter included. A lot of points definitely makes this a super strong red coin list, because you can tempo and push your opponent with a lot of your cards and hopefully put them in a bit of a tricky position. I think another thing to note here with this list is that we're running a Gerd, and that means Wlastelin has had to cut the Great Swords. But he's saying, hey, it's alright, I'm playing Raging Bears and Bear Witchers instead. He might be missing out a little bit on that Hjalmar later on if he really needs that 10 removal range with playing these lower power cards, but still really strong bronzes to go in this deck, and you do get this Wide Punish Gerd to go alongside with it.
Yeah, the Megascopes and the Hjalmar lose a little bit of a ceiling, but in exchange you don't have to put Greatsword in your deck. A lot of the time, Greatsword sort of pressures you into like using some of your leader charges in round 1 to try to get it to stick, and sort of just puts you in a bunch of situations that you don't really want to be in. But by cutting it and just playing some good cards like Gerd, playing a second Raging Bear, your Megascope ceiling is a little bit lower, but you're not making as many concessions in your sequencing, and kind of just playing better cards overall. Next up, we got this Force of Nature list, playing She Who Knows, a Neuromancy, opting to not go for a Sunset Wanderers variant. Either deciding that the card's just not good enough when it has to come out in round 1 very often, or is just kind of awkward with the sequencing in the deck. Playing a single Gancane alongside the 2 Andrega Larvas. We've seen some of those numbers messed around with in some other lists from this tournament. The real spicy tech in these bronzes, though, is that of Theory Merchants. I asked my Discord before the tournament, or before we started the stream, what that was for, and they mentioned that it's for Hyperthin. Sort of an interesting way to try to steal the opponent's Imperial Golem away from them before they're able to use their Zarthisiuses and Yennifers. Any thoughts on this list?
Super cool tech choice. I really like it. If your opponent thinks to 1 with Hyperthin, you're putting it in a really hard position, because you can't really play around that tech too much if you are Hyperthin. So yeah, maybe that's a tech that can be, you know, game winning against something like Hyperthane. So it's really cool. Another thing I like about this list is that we're not running Heat Wave. Heat Wave can be a great answer to a lot of things, but also it's a little bit counterproductive for Koshi, because Koshi likes to just put these big points on the board. And Heat Wave is a little bit weird because you do have to play it early, but also you don't really want to play it too early unless there's a great target for it. So instead of that, Wlastelin is just opting to go for solid points here. Yeah, running cards like Caretaker and Aguara can be really great into something with a lot of blocks, like Imprisonment, for example, and just playing these Thrive points. Also, Defender, I think, really great for defending your Koshis. Can put your opponent in a tough spot because they need to get through that Defender first.
Yeah, for sure.
And let's take a look at the NR Inspired Seal list, which is the last deck that Wlastelin is bringing today. Of course, Devotion is pretty common for Northern Realms to go with here, so no Wanderers. Instead, we have a Siege, Amphibious Assault, a lot of really strong gold here. We do see a Viraxis cut. Viraxis can be a little bit clunky, and he's very costly as well, so if you miss out on it, you're not always happy, meaning Wlastelin is just instead bringing these other high provision golds, and can include this Siege here with, of course, some Siege engines. A really interesting tech card here is Cursed Knight. That one can remove a poison. If you're playing into Nilfgaard Ball, you could, for example, transform a Joachim, which can be really big. So it's an interesting one-off tech choice to go for here. And double Sentry and Envoy here, they're not really too great later on in the game, but in round one, they can sure help you find some cards later on by putting good stuff on the top of your deck. So pretty cool card to be running here as well.
Yeah, I think you hit all the major points there. Seeing a Devotion list with the only Devotion payoff being Karak Marine, right? There's no Viraxis, there's no Full Test. Yeah. Just playing the Devotion for the powerful 4 provision card. Yeah, the Envoys, I don't think I've ever seen a list playing double Envoy before, but it sort of makes sense. Yeah. It's not a card you really want to have to Amphibious Assault for in round 1, but it is something you really want to have access to, just to smooth over those draws when you're playing Inspired Zeal and R. I guess we can move on to lord-triss's list. He has brought Imprisonment, Reckless Flurry, Inspired Zeal, and Lined Pockets. Starting us off here on Imprisonment, we've got the good old Masquerade Ball Nilfgaard deck. Playing Imprisonment to set up for better coups, which is the main reason why these ball decks do choose to play Imprisonment as opposed to the more popular, recently, Tactical Decision Leader. So without Tactical Decision, has to play double Blade Maker to support the double Mage Assassin. And aside from that, I think the most unusual thing here is maybe the Courier in the 4 provision slot. Just a way to try to yoink the opponent's golds with Cantarella, I suppose, or set up your own Joachim so that you don't accidentally hit one of your Mage Assassins if you fail to do your thinning.
Yeah. Imprisonment seems like a pretty popular list that has come back at least this weekend's qualifiers. We're relying on Masquerade Ball, still a really strong card, and definitely this deck can be great in long rounds. And here, we don't see a Vincent, but instead we are getting to fit in that Cantarella Gorther to potentially also tech against something like Hyperthane that has seen some popularity before. I think Gorther and Kanta has always been pretty interesting in mirrors where it can really mess up with those card draws, or those alchemists coming down from Gorther can be quite game deciding. So this one has been fit in here, but no Vincent. Instead, we do see the Fergus and the Dead Man's Tongue for a little bit of extra thinning. Other than that, solid ball list. We're no stranger to this type of deck.
It's been around for a while, for sure.
Yeah. All right, then we have another Reckless Flurry list here from lord-triss. Pretty standard from what we see, although we have a little bit of a tech option here with the Squirrel. It's right there, and that can be helpful when you're playing this list on red coin against something like Northern Realms. You can banish their Amphibious Assault, so I really like that tech choice in there. Other than that, this list does run the Bear Witchers that you quite usually see alongside with those Megascopes. And then the golds tend to look quite similar. Axie there for a Purify. Heatwave, definitely useful. Removal. Usually this deck has clean answers to a lot of things. It's a deck that potentially can struggle in a long round in terms of having points. but other than that, really good in removing important engines.
Yeah, Squirrel often a card that you'll see paired with a Neuromancy as a way to, like, not have to commit to playing a Squirrel, but having the option to pull it out of your deck with the tutor in round 1 if you want to. With the discard package, you don't want to play a Neuromancy, but you sort of have that same optional ability to Squirrel by being able to discard it off of the Coral or Baronet or a Scald if you choose to not want to play it later on in the round. You can, like, hold up your option by choosing to not mulligan it and then just discard it away in the middle of the round. Next up, we got this Inspired Zeal deck. A little bit of a different take on a similar deck that Wlastelin brought. Lord-triss here choosing to play Varaxis Prince in addition to, well, all the other usual stuff here. Choosing to play War Chariot with no Siege. Don't know if I've seen much of that. Usually when they're playing War Chariot, they're committing to a bigger Siege Engine plan. Only a single Envoy in this list. A Centurion Knight in the 4 provision cards as well, rounding that off. Do you have any thoughts about this in our deck?
Yeah, I think with the War Chariot, something like movement can become quite relevant as well. You do see Carrick City Guard here, just in terms of wanting to remove some kind of engine, anything like that. That can be a useful tech choice to have in there. Of course, the bleeding as well. It's just solid points for 7 provisions now. So that, I think, is why War Chariot is included. Another thing that Lord-triss is saying with this list is Siege is too clunky. You might not draw it with this leader. So instead, he's just relying on the power of Northern Realms and all of these really strong golds to hopefully outpoint the opponent. Now, I would say this list is very threatening because it has answers for a lot of engines with the dual cards, and it's very flexible as well. It's difficult to bleed, it can defend a bleed, it can have points in a short round there with the Shani and Varaxis. So just in terms of game strategy, this deck is really, really flexible. Margarita as well, another tech choice there in the mid-gold provision range that can help. The lock can come in handy there when you have to stop some engines.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we can move on to the lined pockets list that Lord-triss will be bringing today. We do see Shock here, Horson Jr., Professor, super great answers. I'm going to mention real quick that I think that Lord-triss here is soft targeting Koshi a little bit. So cards like Horson Jr. and Professor can be really strong into those Mariels for extra removal. And Tunneled Relic Cleaver, as we know, really, really strong golds to be playing here in a list like this with Crimes.
Yeah, we've seen some of these line pockets lists opt to get away from Devotion in order to play Sunset Wanderers, but if you want to be really good in the Koshje, you don't want to get rid of Horson Jr. That card is huge in the matchup, being able to answer both the Koshje and the Larva that gets spawned pretty easily. I guess one thing to note here is the Novigradian Justice targets in this list. Some people have gone for 2 Bloody Good Friends, some people have gone for like 1 Bloody Good Friends, 1 Coarse Blacksmith. Here, Lord-triss is opting to play 1 Bloody Good Friends and 1 Cleaver's Muscle, instead choosing to use that provision somewhere else. Not sure exactly what he's playing that isn't in the normal list. Maybe he's fitting in the Kurt? I don't know if that's stock in pockets.
Yep, you could definitely have to make some choices there. Kurt being kind of like a cheaper witch hunter. What is it called? Yeah, the witch
finder. Is what you mean?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a bit of a cheaper version of that, of course, with the bounty or purify, of course, being a useful tech to have.
Especially with all this removal in the deck. Having that access to purify for defenders can be huge.
For sure. Now, do you have any thoughts on what bans we're going to see here going before we're going into these games?
Probably just going to be Syndicate. Have you seen tournaments lately? It's always Syndicate.
I think we can see motivation for a couple of things. I think because in this matchup, Wlastelin has to make a pretty important decision between either banning Inspired Seal or banning Lined Pockets. Those are both threatening. Like I said, Lord-triss's decks are really good into Vlastelin's Koshi. I think what Wlastelin needs to do here is try to get that Koshi through, and his best bet, I think, is getting it through Imprisonment, just because he has those answers to the locks for that list. But otherwise, I think Lord-triss has really solid and pretty threatening list for Wlastelin's lined up there, with the Koshi being the weak link in there.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. That makes sense to me. Yeah, as far as answers in this Imprisonment deck to the Koshje, the thing is, like, even when you're able to unlock the Koshje, all the other stuff going on in the matchup is so rough. Like, you're playing a She Who Knows
Yeah.
against the deck with Yennefer's Invocations, and you're
Hmm.
playing... I guess in Dragolarva, into Coup de Grace isn't as relevant anymore, but there's still Brothans for all of your powerful bronzes. It's not even just the ability to easily shut down the Koshjes, it's just everything else going on as well. Just seems like that deck is completely engineered to be able to deal with whatever Koshje is doing.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how Wlastelin takes up this challenge and getting this Koshi through, because I think that one will become quite interesting. But yeah, in terms of bans in this tournament, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some NR bans. NR is a really, really strong list on par with Syndicate Line Pockets a lot of the time. Now, Syndicate has a couple of weaknesses to exploit. For example, if it has to be forced to go on blue coin, that one can definitely struggle. So a couple of weak spots for Syndicate these days, and definitely something that you could make use of. However, it does seem threatening for Wlastelin to let that line pockets go through.
For sure. Have you been watching any of the earlier matches in this tournament? I know there were a couple of streams that were playing some games.
Yeah, I did watch some of the earlier ones. I watched Red Rain play, and I watched Pavlowex as well earlier today when I went through these lists and had a bit of a look.
Okay. Yeah, I saw parts of Red Rim's run yesterday, but I haven't really saw any of the games from today. Any cool games stand out to you?
Oh, I think a lot of them have been really, really interesting for me. Some spicy lists, I think, in this one that we will see later. Now we have a couple of questions there in chat as well, how SK plays into Koshi, and I believe SK has quite clean answers to the Koshis with both the Yalvar and the Unod there, so definitely Reckless Flurry has the tools to deal with Koshis.
Yeah, that's been my understanding of the matchup. Like, it doesn't even really matter what coin you're on. On blue, you get to Tempo Pass. On red, you get to do Reckless Flurry things. I think that changes a little bit with Cave Troll. I think things get a little bit more awkward for Flurry, but I don't know exactly how it works this season with the Sunset Wanderers and the discard package.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Discard package can be awkward, but it can also have those points, definitely. So we'll see what's going to happen once we queue into these matches. I think the players are getting ready, aren't they, Twilight?
Oh yeah, invites are out. We are waiting for the players to select their decks and get in the game. Yeah. So chat, how's everybody doing? I see a bunch of people in here.
We're having a good weekend. People have been watching the qualifiers as well today, I'm sure. Did you get the chance to see any exciting games, Trinet?
No, like I said, I haven't watched any today. Yesterday I saw parts of Red James Run, but I was working on projects while having it on in the background, just sort of stopping in to chat from time to time.
All right. That sounds like pretty chill way to enjoy the qualifiers, and now we get to see the final action. Once again, two of these players will go ahead and qualify for open number 3. This is the last chance. There's a lot on the line for these players. We'll see who manages to take it here. Wlastelin, of course, against lord-triss and the double syndicate ban. Do you have any thoughts on what we're going to see on the queues?
Everything looks like a red coin deck to me. I really don't know. NR probably can be played on blue.
Being the blue one. Yes. It's typically the blue coin deck that you want to go for, I think, with these queues. So I think we're going to see some NR on blue coin.
Yep. And then we got Reckless Flurry here for Wlastelin.
All right. Typical red coin versus blue coin deck. That is what we are looking at. So let's check out what the players decide to mulligan here. Hubert, of course, going way back into the deck there on lord-triss's side. Maybe not something you want to keep in hand at this point. Double mages there for provision. I call them Instagram mages. We talked a bit about this one last time, but they are ready to jump out here on blue coin, getting that sweet carryover for something like Shani later.
Yeah, well, Wlastelin choosing to keep Bear Witchers in his deck, making sure that he doesn't accidentally brick his Quen for later. With the discard package, it can be a little weird having to make sure you don't draw both your Bear Witchers early. A lot of the time, Maxi is going to be used to put one of them onto the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lord-triss leading off here with a Bannered Student. Quickly passing it back, letting that patience up as Sunset Wanderers starts moving in Vlastelin's hand. Passing that Morkvarg.
Yeah. We do have a couple of discards targets there in deck, alongside with Maxi useful card for Wlastelin to have here in round 1, as he'll know exactly what to draw into later, unless he chooses to shuffle it. But definitely happy seeing that card round 1, I think.
Yeah, the discard targets being to the left of the hand is pretty nice too. You want to be discarding cards from the left of Sunset Wanderers just to sort of cheat on that progression a little bit. Wlastelin choosing to lead on his Raging Bear on an empty board. Since there is no unit, nothing has to get damaged, and it just plays as a nice 8 for 5. As Lord-triss is going to deploy his War Chariot to bleed the bear.
There we go, out comes the bleeding, and so is the cooldown, ready to go for another bleed if that engine will survive here. Let's see here. Of course, you are a little bit threatened being NR here on blue coin. You don't want to lose on even to something like Skellige, which does have the points if it draws well here on red coin. So let's see if Wlastelin decides to put the pressure on here a little bit to hopefully contest this round. But again, Lord-triss with a deck that definitely isn't super bleedable. That could be useful, and maybe he can survive this round.
Sort of the opposite of pressure right now, as Wlastelin's just going to deploy a Maxi and make sure his deck is in order. Not sure if the players shuffled. I didn't really get a good look at what the order was there, but had the option to potentially put a Bear Witcher on the bottom to make his Quen a little bit less awkward in round 3. But if the deck was in good order, then maybe he just keeps it.
It's going to be interesting to see here whether Wlastelin really decides to keep these discard targets for something like round 2, because if he doesn't gain round control, I would definitely be scared of this NR list in the long round. When you are Skellige, it can be difficult getting those points, but maybe Wlastelin is just waiting for all the discards to be behind that Sunset Wanderer so they can be played out.
Yeah, and that is looking like what he's doing, even waiting for the Wanderers to pass the Coral, as that is going to come out of his hand now, as he starts to see what his hand is going to be looking like after these discard cards get thrown away. Damages the War Chariot down to 3. And Lord-triss is going to protect that with a tactile advantage.
That is coming out, and we have a protected War Chariot ready to take the next turn, of course. Also, Natalis here, great access to something like Amphibious Assault, which is useful here in round 1 and locking that Coral. There is always the threat of the burn coming down there for a lot of points on the Coral if you don't lock it. So, good choice using this Margarita here.
Deciding he does not want to take a bunch of damage from the random pings on the Coral, as this Scald is going to come down, discard the Morkvarg, and Sunset Wanderers is all the way on the left again.
Yeah, there we go. Getting maximum points on that for Lord-triss to deal with later. Of course, we do know that there is a Bloody Baron in Lord-triss's list, so that one might come down and take out the Sunset Wanderers points if, of course, that card will be drawn, since it can't be tutored with AA.
Here we got Megascope coming down for Wlastelin. Again, he is not playing Great Swords, so this is the max value that he's able to get out of it. Solid 8 for 4 still, though. Not embarrassing at all. 28 to 25 on even cards.
Yeah, I mean, Lord-triss can definitely play down here quite a lot. You still have the Amphibious Assault, of course, to put the points up. Selkirk and Sayas, you're pretty fine with playing either. Marine as well, not bad. Viraxis, I would say, is the only awkward card here to be played from Lord-triss's side.
Yeah, I can see that. Looks like Lord-triss is playing Karak Marine. Okay, I thought he wasn't going to use it for a second there. That was... decides to boost up that Bannered Student, keep that Patience unit growing as Heatwave comes down to take it out. Not having any of that. The Megascope resolves, summons the bear, and we're back to 29-24, and the pressure is still on.
Yeah, I think it's pretty impressive. You can play something so low tempo as Maxi, but then just slap those discard points on the board, and suddenly lord-triss definitely has to spend valuable cards. Selkirk, of course, coming down here, as well as the leader charge.
Mm-hmm.
And Hubert.
Things are turning around here. 15-point gap here, and Wlastelin's sort of running out of things to play. Still has a Gerd that is no longer on its adrenaline, a Quen that can be played but doesn't quite catch up, a Junod with no targets would need to use a leader, and just gonna take the pass before the Sunset Wanderers comes out.
Yep, there is a pass, and we are moving on to round number 2. I mean, it's a pretty nice position for lord-triss to be in here. Saving that amphibious assault is pretty important.
Yeah. Now if the push is going to come out for Vlaselen, lord-triss will have amphibious assaults in both rounds 2 and round 3, not expending that resource.
Although I think you're quite happy, also in a long round here when you are lord-triss, but there might just be an amphibious assault, but instead we do see the pass just because the points are there and you have drawn a lot of these important goals that will play for a lot of points later. Bleeding Flurry is always a little bit questionable because they are usually the ones doing the bleeding, so they have good cards in terms of answering that.
Mm-hmm. Into round 3 we go as Raging Bear takes that round. Megascope, Centurion Knight, Axie, Bloody Baron.
Alright, and Bloody Baron is here. Ooh. Let's see, Natalis has any backup targets here. He does have the Boiling Oil and the Casting Contest, of course. And also Wlastelin pulling really strong draws here.
Historically, Bloody Baron, not something that's super important in these matchups, but now with Sunset Wanderers, you have that real good target.
And we do see it's a big Sunset Wanderer. He's been wondering for a long time, soon reaching his final destination, but Bloody Baron will certainly come down and take care of that one.
Yeah, really just making all the sequencing in round 1 sort of irrelevant as the Wanderers. Doesn't matter if it's a 13 or if it's an 11 when it just gets reset by the Baron anyway.
And here comes the Shawnee. If you do want to get potentially another cooldown on Shawnee, it's good that she comes down early enough, and now we can remove one of these totem targets here with the carryover we got in round 1, which is certainly not bad.
4 damage from the Bannered Student. Not bad at all.
Yep. Okay. Wlastelin does have an engine there that potentially wants to be discarded there with the Burna. Otherwise, it does have to come down here. But we do see a Burna. Checking out what we find here. Is there anything to discard? And we do find a Skirm. And nice there goes the 4 provision cards, I think.
Probably. That's a nice hand. All golds. Yeah. Might have a little trouble. No, this hand's just solid, right? Yeah, back over to lord-triss. Yeah.
Solid. Yeah.
True.
lord-triss, of course. Well, also engines of his own. I think he wants to get this released on the board. It's exactly that we see. And it's a little bit difficult to remove for Wlastelin. For now, you'd have to spend something like a Hjalmar, and maybe there's another target there, potentially and say as if you're scared of a Viraxis on it. Yeah, the Viraxis is a bit threatening for sure.
Yeah, Ballista coming down for lord-triss, and Wlastelin figuring out how he wants to answer this. Could potentially take Hjalmar on it. It is a scary card. Mm-hmm. You could use Flurry Charges plus Junod never really worked because it has the boost already.
Yeah, you'd have to hit it twice there to pull the Unod off. So here comes the Hjalmar, definitely saying this Ballista is a little bit too threatening. And, of course, Anarch can always miss its gold cards, so you're not certain there will be any of these other threats that you might have to get rid of. And either way, they have so many Viraxis targets, it might not be worth it to save your Hjalmar for that.
Yeah, true. Just feels a little bad using your Hjalmar this early on a 5 provision engine when there's so many other threats in the deck for Northern Realms. But, yeah, here, we're going to see some leader charges come down.
Enabled the Bloodthirst here on Shawnee. Is this her time to leave? Will it be a Unod? making sure to get rid of that. Also, nicely cleaning up the inspiration boost there on the guard, making sure that it's not giving armor to something like Anseus.
Yeah, that's a nice line from Wlastelin, realizing that this is potentially his last turn to be able to take the Junod on the Shani, as the Royal Guards might just end up boosting it next turn. Doesn't want that to get a second res off, so takes the opportunity to leader and Junod that down, as Sunset Wanderers comes out for 14, but those 14 points are not very long for this game.
Nope. Let's see here. There is still an amphibious assault there, potentially looking to come down very early. Varaxis here, but lord-triss, of course, knows that there are very limited answers to it, so he can kind of hold on to it for now, not having to spend any leader charges here. It's just going on range. Of course, Varaxis Devotion does give you a boost every time you play a soldier, so if you play Bloody Baron on front row there, it would get the inspiration immediately. Bleeding, something like the Sunset Wanderers.
Yeah.
It's greedy, but it works.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, right? Like, look at the score right now, 47-16. It's not like, there's not really answers for this Varaxis, right? So, might as well take the points when you can get them.
Yep, you would have to super snipe this Varaxis and also hit it with a Bear Witcher. Of course, that is not very likely to happen. So, yeah, lord-triss can kind of chill there with this Varaxis and get the maximum value out of it here.
You said not very likely, but it is possible. It's possible.
It is possible. It would be an interesting use of leader charges from Wlastelin, of course, but, you know, he might go for it. Who knows?
Sometimes you're just winning by enough, and you want to win with style. He knows he's on the camera.
Exactly.
Just,
yeah.
push his luck. See what he can get.
Alrighty.
Yep. Here we go. Lord-triss.
Thinking about what's going to come down next. Oh.
Just the Baron. Also able to put this pretty safely on the range draw.
Yeah, Varaxis hasn't been removed, and that means Baron is not going anywhere either.
Unless we see some leader charges. Just saying. We
Leader
could double
charges.
leader here and try to snipe one of these.
That would be impressive. The Bear Witcher at least comes down to take out the extra inspiration there on Bloody Baron, of course. Now it's time for the amphibious assault into a marine, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
My video feed has froze.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we have a backup link. Alright, it's back.
Okay.
Okay, cool. We're back. Nothing happened.
So at some point, Bloody Baron got its
boosting...
inspired back. And now the Sunset Wanderers is bleeding for 13.
That is always funny to see when Baron bleeds something like Osrel or Sunset Wanderers in this case.
Yep. Megascope that was drawn off of that Sunset Wanderer is going to come down onto the Bear Witcher. Another solid 8 for 4.
Yeah, and this
sword
means
narrowing.
lord-triss here has quite good targets for the Anseus if the Varaxis would choose to hit it. You have the Bear Witcher, and you have the Gerd there, getting some solid points. So here comes the last leader charge, of course, boosting it up, and I think we're going to use it. Varaxis can certainly wait. It could be used on something like Gerhardt as well.
Yep, there's the duel taken out that Bear Witcher. Not really much of a duel, sort of just a deal 7, but that is how it goes sometimes.
Deal 7 sort of deal.
Yeah.
Geralt Quinn coming down here. Big play. Probably going to ping down this Anseus here, making the Varaxis slightly worse.
Yep. Knocks that down to 4. Don't think there's anything that's boosting it off of the Natalis. The Natalis is... Not sure what's in it. Oh, here's Pact. Pact will do it. If that's what he chooses to go for with the Gerhardt.
He is greeting the Gerhardt.
Yeah.
It doesn't even die off to these leader charges. You could find something like Casting Contest there. Casting Contest is quite useful from the Gerhardt if you end up hitting it. Of course, 5 patience, or 2 patience there, and the 5 provision specials that you can find.
Yep.
You don't really know what the pool is going to give you.
Axie comes down on the Marine, leader coming down, and we got a 23-point gap here. What
There
is
is the
this going to be?
casting
There's
contest,
casting
however.
contest. That's
And we have
9.
other axes as well. Yep. Solid points here.
Yeah. Ooh. Gonna Natalis, it's winch and boiling oil.
And here we go. Last Varax is coming down on this huge Sayas taking down
Looks
an
like-
8. Sealing
Yeah.
the deal.
Wins by 2, it looks like.
Alright, and there we go. Northern Realms able to take this round. lord-triss knew exactly what removal range there was and was able to take it here in a long round quite comfortably with all of the goals that lord-triss skillfully found.
Yeah, that's just one of the issues with playing the Hjalmar early, right? Like, you're pressured to get rid of that bronze, but it let him greed the Varaxis, let him greed the Baron, let him greed the other one, the Gerhardt, too. Just so
The
much.
Gerhardt.
So many extra
All of
points
them.
is able to get by not needing to use the Zeal on these cards.
Alright, and that means NR is through. Next game we jump into, the coins will be flipped. So this time around it is Wlastelin going on blue coin. I suspect we might see a little bit NR from Wlastelin. What do you think?
Probably. Those seem like the obvious blue coin decks in the matchup. It seems like you got NR for blue, and then your other 2 decks feel to me like they want to be red, but we'll see. I've been surprised before. You never know when someone's going to try to ambush.
Exactly. Your Koshi, I think, is definitely something that can work on blue coin. If you're on red coin with Koshi, then you can go ahead with your She Who Knows shenanigans and kind of set that up and don't have to be too worried, but it can definitely work on blue coin as well. Koshi, in general, just a really, really powerful deck with points, of course. So let's see what we end up going with. Northern Realms, though, for Wlastelin could be a nice choice on red, meaning lord-triss might follow Wlastelin and take the Reckless Flurry on red coin. And Wlastelin, of course, NR on blue.
Yeah, that definitely could be something that we see here. While we are waiting here, so lord-triss with Imprisonment and Reckless Flurry left, and Wlastelin with all 3 of his decks remaining. Line Pockets, again, banned for both players.
Going to be really interesting to see what we end up fighting here as we're queuing into our second game. Wlastelin rocking this little Shoop hat. I think he's looking great. Shoop against Morven here. I think this is the matchup that Wlastelin really wants to get through, and he wants this Nilfgaard, I think. So it's an interesting blue coin choice, but as I said, Koshi can definitely work on blue coin. Let's see if that will help Wlastelin. A little bit scary with things like Invocation, I think, from lord-triss here.
Yeah, for sure. Queuing this Koshche on blue, especially into this Nilfgaard. I don't know if that was what he was looking to get with this queue, but we'll have to see how the hands shake up. Right now, lord-triss, sort of light on interaction in round 1, has a lock and 2 poisons, 3 poisons.
Yep, that's a lot of poisons. Definitely useful here. Wlastelin, on the other hand, has found his Courant there. Of course, the Koshi is something you definitely want to find later. But yeah, I mean, you do want to get this list through against Nilfgaard. Maybe this is your shot. You just have to be careful, of course. With the She Who Knows here, you can't just play it out, as there might be an Invocation. Invocation Joachim on She Who Knows, I think it's a bit of a game over moment if that happens. So definitely Wlastelin has to be careful here.
I have done that many times to many players. It's always very satisfying. Courier coming down for lord-triss, taking a peek at the top of Wlastelin's deck as Wlastelin then follows up and deploys the old trusty Elderbear, the original Elderbear, the one that doesn't care if it dies.
Replacing something like a Bruxa here in this list, really.
Just plays for 6 points and doesn't afraid of anything.
Nope. Now, we don't really know what this Courier saw, but either way, there is a Cantarella ready to yoink something. What if it would be a Koshi? That would be a pretty solid yoink there.
Imagine. Just having the game in round 1. Emissary boosts up that Courier as we go back to Wlastelin. who just plays a Gancane with no relics. Gonna take the boosts on the larvas.
Yeah, lord-triss here playing Dead Man's Tongue. Great card to have round 1. You get to thin. Of course, it doesn't show your deck in order anymore, but thinning is winning, as they say in Nilfgaard. And hopefully, lord-triss now can start finding some solid goals that he needs. I suspect because the Cantarella wasn't played, maybe this career didn't see anything too great.
Yeah, most likely. Could also just be waiting to get a more optimal time for it, but yeah. I also missed what the courier saw. I think we did see it briefly. I think chat might know, but it was gone quick.
Help us. Yeah. Of course, maybe someone in chat got to check it there and can tell us what we saw. 3 bronzes, all right, and that answers the question. No Cantarella this round, then no juicy targets.
Hey man, that doesn't tell us much. There are some great bronzes in this Force of Nature deck. Can you yoink larvas? Can you yoink Witch's Apprentices? These are worth a lot of points.
Well, now we get to see what cards were on top, at least here. So it was a
Kikimor, Larva, and Necker. Okay.
Yeah. Kikimor is going back to the deck, so definitely not a bronze that Wlastelin values too much. Quite skillfully finding another Crone. Of course, we are still missing the Koshi, but worry not, we can find it in round 3. What Wlastelin has to do here, I think, is bleed out the ball.
Most likely, yeah. Also, just wants to get a shorter round in general, if he can. Let's see what the lead is here.
Koshi loves the 5-card round, of course, so that is quite nice. Of course, you gotta be a little bit spooked that you might not see the Koshi, but...
Yeah, lord-triss missing his Brothans is a little scary here. I guess you could... Not sure how many golds are in deck if Roderick is guaranteed onto it, but having Brothans in order to contest with these engine bronzes in round 2 can be real big. Yeah, best answer to larva is a larva of your own.
Larva of your own or copying a Witch Apprentice is pretty nice with Brothans, but yeah, of course we are missing that one out. Now, Vlaselen really, again, has to be careful with the She Who Knows. We see the invocation now in lord-triss's hand, and Roderick could potentially tutor out a Joachim. That would be something. There is no Heatwave, of course, in Vlastelin's list. So if the She Who Knows gets invocated here, then played from lord-triss's side with a Joachim, that's a big one.
Yeah, there is the Aguara to lock it, but, I mean... then you're playing more cards into the round. You might not necessarily want to.
Okay.
Whoa, lord-triss just gonna run out the Masquerade Ball, trying to force Wlastelin out of this round, or try to yoink the card. Yeah. Not often that you see Masquerade Ball played on 9 cards in the round 2 bleed, but he just knows this round's gonna go deep.
Yeah, lord-triss knows that it's no point in greeting it because Wlastelin has to push. Now Wlastelin can, of course, make the choice of pushing even further, shortening the round, potentially losing a card then if you go down below 6 there. But it's, yeah, this ball's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, not, It is very interesting.
He's basically saying that I don't... trading with this ball?
Yeah, he's saying that I don't need the ball to win a long round. Just trade the ball for card advantage is the idea, I guess, but here comes the Crone.
Considering how few golds lord-triss has played, it is still a threatening deck in a long round, even if the ball comes out. And Wlastelin, of course, would potentially get row-capped if the spice starts coming down from lord-triss in round 3, which is another reason to keep shortening this round.
Yep. Lord-triss gonna play Fangs of the Empire, take a poison on that and drag a larva. As Vlaselen says, okay, I got your Masquerade Ball. That's all that I need. We're just going to go to long round 3.
A long round with, of course, Wlastelin having the Caretaker. So even if lord-triss can lock up these potential Koshis that we might see in round 3, Wlastelin does have a couple of tools there, with the Defender being a little bit annoying for lord-triss. And, of course, the Aguara and the Caretaker being able to purify these locks.
Yeah, this She Who Knows in hand for Wlastelin, playing for its traditional mode of 10 points for 13 provisions. Double
Yeah, big
Arcus
finisher for the procs. Not really what you want to see. Oof. Aye, aye, aye. We have missed the Koshis for Vlastelin. That is a bit of a rough one, as we don't really see an off-target for Caranthier. There is no Witch Apprentice, and there's no Consume for this Arcus 4. This is a tough hand for Wlastelin to have.
You could Carinthier your She Who Knows for round 4 carryover? Maybe there's a bug and it carries over into the next game?
I think he might have to go for that play. I think that is definitely, thinking ahead is important in Gwent, so not a bad choice.
Yeah, that's all I got, though. I think hoping for the bug is your best bet here.
Yeah, the Fury Merchant as well. Maybe stealing something from Roderick there, but other than that, it's not, unfortunately, doing much in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, after your She Who Knows gets Invocation, you can a Fury Merchant to take it back so they can't Yoick him into it. That could maybe matter in one of the earlier rounds, but at this point in round 3, it's probably not going to matter.
Not too much. Of course, lord-triss here wants to play the usurper at a point where he does get it down still. Fergus working nicely here with the seditious aristocrats. And, of course, we saw Gorther, Brothans, Cantarella still there. I think lord-triss wants to fish out for that Brothans. Joachim could pull something great there. Or Fang, I believe. So maybe this cupbearer is going to see some poisons.
I think that Blightmaker plays for more points than every card in Vlastelin's hand.
Oh no, this hand is rough, definitely. It can happen with Kochi, it can definitely happen. It's a risk that you take, of course, playing a card game.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I think that's the second Crone, right? He played the Damage Crone, still hasn't played Consume Crone.
Yep, no Consume for that Arcus 4. This, we can get rid of a 4-point engine, potentially.
Maybe. So...
Although I don't know if there are any of those. Yeah, okay.
There's Seditious Aristocrats. That's a 4-point engine that doesn't come down as a 4.
Alright, we're going for...
Cave Troll. The respectable choice.
Yeah.
Respectable choice.
It is a respectable choice. Potentially it could block a poison there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you still need the points even if you manage to do that. So
still a Purify in hand for lord-triss at Invocation as well.
Yeah. You could put defenders here on both rows so that lord-triss has a bit of a tough time potentially. Okay, never mind. Here comes the coup later, charging coup, using this defender for himself. Just Nelfguard things, right?
Yeah, he definitely needs this defender, and it is going to do a lot of work against Vlastelin's hand of cards. Yep. There's the Cave Troll protecting that usurper, keeping that engine alive. Back over to Vlaselen.
The engine that probably wouldn't have died anyway. But this really shows how many points the Koshis are in themselves, of course, combined with all of the thrives. Without them, it seems you are struggling a little bit in finding them. Caretaker coming down here to purify this defender. Maybe you get some damage through there with this Crone.
Yep. Still 9 points available in Wlastin's leader as well. So he's got 9, 7, 10, 10, and 4. Versus lord-triss with a tall removal that isn't going to be that many points, because there's only 10-point cards in Vlastelin's hand. Invocation not going to be able to play for more than 7 even, because he doesn't have last play?
Yep, I think it's going to be a 7-point Invo. Maybe you want the defender.
Oh, there's seditious aristocrats coming down. Stays out of range of the damage crone, that thanks to that deploy ability is an agent as well for the usurper.
Finding a lock here, of course, in the seditious aristocrat. Now not benefiting from the Joachim or the Roderick. Spy tags coming down later.
Yep. 55 to 41. What's in the Roderick?
Yeah. It's a Brothens, Kanda, and Gorther. One of these cards could, of course,
Yep.
I mean, Brothens could, okay, wow, that's lucky having this Brothens come down as well, meaning you really have access to
Whatever you want.
whatever you want there, maybe.
Oh, there's not even good
From
bronzes
the
to copy.
Roderick.
That's so rare.
Yep. No great bronzes to copy, going for the emissary boost. I mean, you could copy a Intriga warrior there, but of course there is the damage threat from the crone, so you can't really go ahead and do that, so you have to go for the emissary.
Yep. Wlastelin can play his Fury Merchants, but just gonna play the damage crone. Take the armor off the Ardfane Tortoise and boost up your Kikimor worker, which now is the best invo that lord-triss is gonna get.
10-point invocation, but first we're gonna go for the Gorther. You know, knowing that there are still good cards in Vlastelin's deck here, the Gorther can come down on this mentor, finding value.
Yep. Knowing that the Kashe is missing, guaranteed to at least be a 10. Mentor comes down. I think it is a 10, right? No, it's a 12? A 13? Oh, a Neuromancy was missing too, right?
Neuromancy. We did not find it, unfortunately. This is, you know, what happens when you... I mean, the consistency cards are great as long as you draw them, and unfortunately, Wlastelin seemed to have really missed out on a lot here. So tough matchup. But, you know, he played it to the end, and...
gave it the good college try. That was a game.
That was a game, for sure. All right. Wow, okay, so lord-triss's Nilfgaard is through. I think this is a big thing in this matchup. Wlastelin, I think, really had to get this Koshi through against Nilfgaard, but what can you do if you end up in a situation like that?
Yeah, let me refresh the stream, because I think I've got a bit of a delay.
Alright, yeah, we're opening some kegs, so we're not missing anything here yet. Shoop being busy, working.
Well, and we're about to get into the next game.
And I believe we also have sound on the stream. I'm not sure if we have game sound on, but just a heads up, we could get that going for chat.
Yeah, I think we have game sounds. Was there...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just, yeah. I know we're a little desynced. I think we're still desynced. What does the timer say for you right now? I have 9:22.
9:21.
Okay, that's not too bad. I think it was like a couple seconds in the last game.
Yeah, I was delayed in the first one, I think. But it's all good. At least, you know, we can watch this from the beginning to the end.
Yep.
And we're not missing anything. So as long as that works, that's fine. Okay, and of course, fun fact, this is actually the Battle of the Lords. Wlastelin apparently means Lord in Russian, and it's because Wlastelin is a big fan of Lord of the Rings. And of course, lord-triss, his opponent here. So really, the Battle of the Lords, and one of them is certainly going to make it through now to open number 3. Let's see here. Of course, lord-triss has to get the Reckless Flurry through. And Wlastelin can choose any deck that he wants to answer it.
Yeah, possibly both of these players get through to the Open. This is the winner's bracket final, so the winner of this game goes on to the loser bracket final after, and gets a second shot.
And it's not over for the other player, exactly.
We could have an all-Lord qualifier.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And we are into game number 3 here between Wlastelin and lord-triss. We got lord-triss with the Flurry on blue up against Wlastelin's Inspired Zeal on red.
Yeah, here we go. Again, rocking this nice Shoop model. Let's see if Shoop can bring home the victory. All right.
Okay. Looks like we're good.
We're good.
Yeah, I was worried for a second there, but we should be good.
All good. Okay. So this is interesting. Wlastelin queuing, of course, Northern Realms here on red, and it does make sense because Northern Realms into Skellige is you know, I think you have a good shot with Northern Realms, and of course Skellige on blue coin, bit of a weakness potentially for this deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh-oh. Okay. Wait. We're good. We're good. I think we're good. I hope we're good.
Alrighty. Sweet.
What? Do we have a backup stream? We might need a backup stream.
Okay. There is a backup link, indeed, somewhere in the Discord. It's working all good for me, but...
Yeah, mine just got stuttering and...
No worries. I can tell you quickly what is going on here, chat, so you don't miss anything. We have a Megascope coming down, Vlastelin taking it, chilling here on red coin, making sure his draws are good by playing the Informant here, or the Career. Cintrian Envoy is what it's called. There's a lot of these different names, but Cintrian Envoy.
Yeah, Wlastelin was the player that was playing 2 envoys, right? Just going in on making sure that he has access to his golds.
And one of them he has here. Also, War Chariot just coming down early, making sure those cooldowns are going down. And hopefully you can trigger that later on this turn as well.
Yep, once again we see a bear getting bled by the War Chariots. The Mask of Ouroboros being used there to discard the Skirmisher.
Alright, and then lord-triss here is tempo. It's a kind of a nice way to put a lot of tempo with Skellige on blue coin if you can, and then take a fast pass. Well, we did see lord-triss managing in a long round with his Northern Realms to take on Vlastelin's Skellige list. So maybe Wlastelin is making sure here that, you know, he's not too worried going into a long round, for example, with a lot of gold.
Yeah, for sure. Lord-triss keeping a pretty comfortable point gap here. Even after this 4 points from the Karak Marine, it is only 21 to 30. Lord-triss looking pretty safe. Decides to play out the Greatsword. Is he gonna use a leader charge to make it bigger? Nah, points gap is fine for him. Gonna get taken out by Boiling Oil most likely. Yeah.
Here is an easy answer. And of course, another ping here on the War Chariots. Not wanting to use that Marine, of course. If you play anything too tall, it's a kind of an optimal target for removal for lord-triss if he so chooses.
Yeah. If you wanted to play around that Boiling Oil a little bit, he could have put the Greatsword next to the Raging Bear. There wasn't another reason that he wanted it on the range trail.
That is absolutely right. Extra Death Blow Purify there.
Yeah, use the bonus on Boiling Oil against the Northern Realms player.
Yeah. Oh, big point gap, definitely. Let's see here. Is Wlastelin willing to play any further? Of course, there is the threat of the Squirrel now. If you do decide to go ahead with your Amphibious Assault, lord-triss here keeping Swirl. I mean, on blue coin it can be a little bit scary, but it's a good tech to have.
Yeah. Yeah, having some internet trouble here, but hopefully it sorts out soon.
Yeah,
we're good now.
Looks good, yeah. And yes, lord-triss did use that heat wave there, which can be quite important, but also securing round 1 doing so. Now, of course, the famed Flurry Bleed might be something we see if lord-triss manages to find enough of these discard targets.
Yep, here comes Svalblood Totem to start out the push. Puts those points that are pretty resilient to random damage in play, though not really much in the way of random damage from Wlastelin's list, though it does prevent stuff like a Zealed Reinforced Ballista from coming out and getting some value on deploy.
Yeah, I think Vlaselen has a lot of these small damage pings that he can definitely utilize. And again, saving that amphibious assault for the bleed, I think is really, really nice for Vlaselen. And here comes Coral. Lord-triss wanting to put these points on the board ASAP. And that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Yep. Using a leader charge there to take out that Bannered Student before its patience can grow too much. Just doesn't want to deal with that. Committing to the bleed, notably. Not only throwing some cards, but also willing to put some leader charges down. 19 points ahead is Lord-triss. As we head back over to Wlastelin to see how he wants to respond to this.
And Wlastelin does indeed have a siege in this list, but it hasn't been found yet. So he might want to hold on to some of these siege engines going on to round number 3. But there are definitely good cards that have to start coming down soon. Of course, Baron, really useful here when the Sunset Wanderers comes out from Lord-triss. And maybe dealing with this Coral is becoming quite important. We do see a burn, of course, in Lord-triss's hand right now.
Yeah, Wlastelin gets to commit the Selkirk and the leader charge to take out that Coral before any more of those pings can come down. Now we're in the point gap a little bit as this totem gets clicked. Back to a 10 points apart. Sunset Wanderers either coming out this turn or next turn. Looks like next turn, as Lord-triss is just going to play his location for a Bear Witcher to knock down that Selkirk a little bit. Now, Wlastelin's list does not have Varaxis, right? So this damage on the Selkirk isn't preventing it from a second duel later.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just
there is no Varaxis there, but it's just a value Bear Witcher coming down. I mean, Lord-triss honestly drew a lot of these valuable cards. I think he's missing from the high-end provisions. Only Axie now, and Axie honestly is not going to do too much in this matchup. But if I was looking at the wrong list there, but it still applies to this one as well. Yeah, we're missing Axie. If Wlastelin can defend this bleed, Lord-triss needs to keep some resources for round 3, unless he decides, hey, I'm going to go all in. Where are your points?
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. We got Hjalmar, Quen, and Birna in hand for Lord-triss.
Yep.
Something just happened. Looks like Quen is coming down, and we got Bear Witcher. Possibly try to take out the reinforced ballista with a leader charge in addition to this Bear Witcher damage?
Yep, it would be a pretty clean kill if you get that one out. Let's see, you have 2 leader charges, even if you miss and hit that Selkirk 3 times, but there goes the ballista. Not great engine value for Wlastelin anymore, and the Sunset Wanderers. Ooh, big points on the board here from Lord-triss, really doing what Flurry does best when you draw nicely.
Except the Megascope plays for a nice 8 points on the board here on one of those Bear Witchers. Still plenty of time to play. It could also just choose to discard it to the Birna. Not sure what is still in the deck, whether there's still some skirmishers you want to save that for later on.
I think Lord-triss did only discard the Morkvarg so far, meaning there should be some skirms that you could potentially find with the Birna. Yeah. And Greatsword has been enabled, so it sits there in graveyard, meaning that this Hjalmar does have the like a big reach. You can't really greed anything here if you're Wlastelin. In terms of your gold cards, you kind of have to make sure you get them on the board, at least until you see that Hjalmar.
Yeah, points gap is huge, but keep in mind, this Baron is going to play for a lot of value when it comes down. Baron's 6-point body in addition to an 11-point reset, play for 17. If it gets boosted by this Royal Guards as well, that's an extra point of bleed on the Sunset Wanderers. Looking like Lord-triss is just going to play the Megascope, copying one of those Bear Witchers as we go back to Wlastelin, and it looks like this is the turn. Decides to take the Baron. We are going to boost it up to get that extra bleed. Wanderers... Don't think it's going to bleed 11 times, but it'll certainly bleed once.
Exactly. And that's 1 point that you definitely need, because we need to see these points somehow. But Wlastelin still has a lot of power in his hand, still holding on to that amphibious assault. Not wanting to play too tall. Lord-triss now, on the other hand, does decide to take a pass, saying the point gap is so big it's going to be awkward for Wlastelin to make it up here in one card, which is exactly right. Now, Wlastelin, in the most efficient way, has to decide how to go forward with this, and the AA, of course, coming out here, see what it finds.
Like
we have some Marines.
Okay, he's done the math. He's confident here.
Yeah, because we do see this envoy coming down, and of course Hubert as well, I saw there, once the order is pressed, should also come out on the board for an extra 5 points.
Yup, Envoy able to set the top of deck. Despite losing a card here, will slightly improve his draws for round 3. I think setting up a Shani there. Gotta decide whether you want...
Well-timed pass from Lord-triss there, but yeah.
Yeah, worked out. No, yeah. Just gotta decide whether he wants to play this Gerhardt or Fiancés. One of them's gotta go.
One of them has to go, and it just depends which one do you value more. Skellige sometimes doesn't have great targets for your Ensays. The Bear Witchers are out now. Lord-triss might not play really high power units there in round 2, but the Gerhardt.
Yeah, decides to go for the Gerhardt instead. I guess knowing, I think Axie is still left for Lord-triss.
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to make that bad, but you still got Amphibious Assault too, right? So.
Yep, Amphibious Assault coming back here, of course. Lord-triss has spent a lot of resources, has a couple left. Let's see if we were able to find any skirms, and if there were any left for Lord-triss. Now, Wlastelin, on the other hand, still has a solid amount of points in his hand, as we can see.
Yep. We can definitely see that. We can definitely see cards getting mulliganed. Axie gets picked up there.
Alright. That is one of the bigger cards to find. And then Berna getting shoved away, meaning there weren't really skirms to be found, potentially. They did both come down round 1 there. But yeah. Okay. 6-point Berna, 6-point Maxi. It's all the same for Lord-triss.
Indeed. Over in Wlastelin's hand, doesn't have his Siege, but does have Shani, Ansace, Amphibious Assaults. Pretty strong golds there. This is going to be rezzing just a rat of its Royal Guards.
Yeah,
gives it the zeal to protect the Shani.
That is definitely fair enough. I mean, I think Wlastelin would want to get the soldier pocket here as well for the last siege engine and making it go to 7, I believe, instantly if it finds the soldier pocket. So Wlastelin trying to set that up.
Mm-hmm. This Axie probably gonna want to be held for the amphibious assaults. The Maxi can honestly come down whenever, just 6 points. I imagine this is just the Maxi, right? Maxi, or you go like Greatsword Leader Charge. But
Greatsword Leader Charge might not be a bad call either.
Just depends on when you want to get the Greatsword down. Like, by playing the Greatsword early, you're free to play your Hjalmar or Bear Witcher whenever without losing value if you don't expect the Greatsword to die. But like here, the Greatsword is just gonna die, so I don't think it matters.
No. It unfortunately is not going to be a very long battle for the Greatsword there. Yeah, definitely, I mean, going down a card might be fine here for Wlastelin with considering the points he has access to. We also saw Lord-triss there, missing out on a U-Nod, which could potentially still be a couple of points combined with the Leader Charge. Alright, not going to go for a Soldier, I guess, from the Amphibious Assault. Avoiding playing into the Axie is just better now to go ahead and play the Siege Engine that slowly will get its vitality going.
Yep. With no Siege, might as well just run out that while you can get your vitality value, as Hjalmar is going to take that out before it can grow anymore. Back over to Wlastelin. Now has Amphibious Assault and Ansace. Amphibious Assault has the natural answer of Axie whenever that gets played, and right now, Ansace's best duel is just on this Maxi. Looks like Lord-triss committing to holding on to this Greatsword until after Vlaselen passes to protect it from any kind of removal.
Not a bad call at all. And Wlastelin, can't play around that Axie forever, so potentially the AA will come down. We do see here, not really satisfied with the 6 points on the max, deciding there is definitely something better to go for. So here comes the Marine.
Boosting up that Radovid's Royal Guards even more. Makes for an even better Axie. 11 points here, resets it down to a 3.
And
18 to 14.
lord-triss saying that's the best one he's got to get, so might as well go ahead and take it right here. Again, not giving any value to this Ensays, or giving as little value as possible to the Ensays, but it does have to come down, of course. Wlastelin not having last say, getting rid of a 6-point maxi and the point gap here.
Close game, but I think this is 2 points for Skellige, if I can do my quick kitchen table math right.
Yeah. There, the Greatsword gets the extra ping here with the double last say. It is enough for lord-triss to take it. So lord-triss has qualified for open number 3 now, getting his decks through quite swiftly. Of course, all is not lost for Wlastelin, because he is going to move on to the losers bracket final, where he will be playing against Poisound, who's recently had a name change.
We'll see that one when we get to talking about deck lists. Let's see what this egg is gonna be.
Alright.
Not great. Griffin with your mentor. Okay, we're gonna go to a starting soon screen for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll get started with deck lists for the next series. Hope you guys stick around for that. We will be right back.